Okay, what happened that was cool? What happened that was like crash and burn? We want both. What did you learn is really the more interesting question there. Yeah?
Entanglements are very
Entanglements are very interesting. Okay. And if you're going to sit on the floor, I'm going to invite you to sit in just a little bit more so that Will can hear you too, because your sound will be blocked a little bit. Excellent. How so?
we all have them in different ways.
Was there a specific way it showed up that particularly struck you?
No, just fascinating.
Okay. Okay. Other experiences, you know, something you learned, something you're going to take with you, something that from that experience that was like super cool.
Yeah, one thing that I'll take with me is that you don't have to be very good at this for it to be really,
Bravo. Well said.
Yeah. If you want to do full-on constellations, you better really understand the framework and everything. But to get a little bit of information for your client or for yourself, yeah, anyone can do this. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I love just seeing my client explain exactly what she was standing on. Like,
Although it was blind.
although it was blind.
Yeah.
But it was
It was
amazing
kind
to
of
me.
crazy. I think she had a really good client.
I had the ideal client. I was like, oh, great. And she's like, oh my God, that's so great what you said. I'm like, I just wrote down what you said. These are all your words. You did all the work.
There was a great one. She was standing on the spirituality card. She didn't know she was, and you said, like she said,
I'm on the cross.
I'm
standing on the cross. And she goes like this.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
this.
stuck. Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
And then it was money and spirituality because that was your issue.
Yeah.
And at some point, apparently, and again, all blind, she said, I need to make a bridge between these two.
oh.
Don't you love it?
And then it was, now they want to come together. So they ended up together at the end.
So that was a structural constellation.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Structurally.
Basically anything that's not ancestral. So it was spirituality and money. It could have been, she could have found out that money represented grandpa and spirituality, you know, whatever, but they left it at the level pretty much of structure.
And actually, I want to do an addendum to that too, that I was saying that I had in the past blamed this on my family and the imprints I got from them, you know, just the family system, but what the information I got was, this is on you, this is your choice to make, this is you, this is not them, this is you.
Well, and it's always us.
Right? Oh.
Yeah?
But
Again,
point.
we're always reaching back to grab the issue. It's not, I mean, we do understand as children, you know, if you're not depressed like your mom, you could get punished or not included for that. It's very hard to resist as a child. But fundamentally, it's something we reach for. Yeah? So it's always a choice.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cindy and Kathy and then Beth.
So, what was really interesting was I was working kind of on issues of power, confidence, and value, having those things, right? And, so Mary set up a couple of resources. One was the male ancestors, and the other was the female ancestors. They had the resources, they had that power and confidence and all that. And I stepped on them each individually, and I wasn't getting a whole lot out of them. I was expecting kind of a really like a resolute, like, ha, like here we are, you know, that strength, that whole thing showing up, and I didn't really get that. And then I kind of stepped on the two of them together, and what was interesting was I just kind of felt like in balance, like there didn't have to be a huge, but I wasn't stressed, I didn't have anything going on like I usually do here, right? It was just kind of a natural breathing and just kind of going with it. And then Mary made this really nice reframe, and she said, well, maybe you're closer to closer to that confidence, power, and value than you thought you were. And I went, oh. Wow. So it was really nice because was kind of like, I was expecting something that wasn't really showing up, but maybe I was already kind of there,
Nice.
right? So that
Those
was
are really nice reframes when they're honest.
Yeah.
And my sense, I have that feeling sometimes when I'm interviewing a client during an initial consultation. I'm like, holy cow, what they want is really, we've got a bunch of work to do. This is big. And for others, I'm like, you know what? I think if we just do a little adjustment here, you're like 95% there. It doesn't feel like it because that last 5% feels like, yeah. Yeah, so you were probably feeling into that kind of honestly. Those reframes are nice. I remember once giving a metaphor to a fellow student practitioner. I feel like if I move forward, I'm going to fall into a hole. I'm just going to, which is kind of a strong metaphor. And he said, oh yeah, you're going to fall into a hole. What if it were only this deep? I mean, I just could not resist that reframe.
Love that.
No, for some people they'll go screw you, it's bottomless. In which case it doesn't work. That's fine, right? But it never occurred to me. I've never forgotten that reframe. You have one. Yes.
Oh, when I was feeling into which resolution pattern or exercise to choose for Jill, I thought of the exercise we did earlier with the self and the two ancestors. And at first I felt embarrassed. Oh, I'm doing what we already did, and I'm just doing what's easy. And then I'm like, this feels right. Yeah. And so we went with it, and it really was unexpected. I did it blind, too. I was sensing into doing it blind.
Good.
And that was like, oh, this is kind of strange. So the whole experience at first was very like, is this right? Perfectionistic. Am I doing this right? Is this okay? And then as soon as we started working the energy, then my confidence came in, and I was doing some interesting things that worked. And it was beautiful.
Pretty, it was pretty powerful. At first I was like, oh, we're gonna do this again. I already did this.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that there was still more. And when I was enacting a really defeated posture, I thought, oh, for sure this is my mother, and turned over and it's me.
Damn, Constellation.
The same thing that I'd done, and I said, how come I'm back at square one? I just did this 30 minutes ago. And she's saying, well, there's always, sometimes there's more of a piece to integrate, and you can keep coming back to it. So I'm really glad that we went back, because apparently didn't get everything the first time.
It was the part B of the two-part constellation. And I'm glad that will often happen to me in a conversation with a client. Like, something will just come to me, and I'll bat it away. And then it'll happen again. And like the third time I say, I'm really sorry, but you mentioned cousins an hour ago, and I won't stop thinking about them. I don't know why. And then that'll turn out, but I'll let myself be skeptical a few times.
Okay.
And the second or third time it like pokes at me, I'm like, well, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Then I now learn something new. But it seems like my stepping into the field is giving me some information to trust. Yeah.
I want, just to voice it, I was kind of struggling with it. Like normally, if I'm verbally like counseling someone or whatnot, they're the expert on their experience.
Right.
Always. But my experience of this exercise was in the interview process. I was hearing my partner say things, and I was distrusting her assignment of meaning to certain things.
Yeah.
Using this frame.
Right.
I don't want to be like, like the creepy analyst of like, oh, I got your number. That's like that's dehumanizing,
Yeah,
But at the same time, I was thinking, again, using this lens with the ancestral emotional stuff, I was like, no, that's clearly what's going on here. And then when we went to enact the resolution kind of thing, again, I saw at one initial point when my partner felt into one of the roles, said it was good, and I knew it wasn't good. And I had to kind of wait for a few minutes for it to come back around and kind of get revealed that it was bad.
Right.
So I'm realizing that, I just wanted to voice that because it was a dynamic I was struggling with.
Yeah.
Kind of not trusting the client
This is one of the great conversations of therapy, right? How directive versus how much of the wisdom is in the client themselves, right? I think hanging out in one of those extremes for the occasional client is useful, but generally speaking, there's somewhere in the middle. Obviously, I've used this metaphor many times today, the blind spot. You are there to help them find the blind spot, right? They can't see it. It's systemic. That's why they can't see it. And so partly whatever our modality is partly to help people feel into their blind spot, whatever it is. Hopefully really artfully, rather than, just lecturing them about it, right? Because then that just moves into their resistance and it doesn't work, yeah? There's an NLP frame, which is we all have the resources we already need, yeah? But we don't know we got them. And that's why someone's coming to us and paying us to help them find or see something, right? One of the things, and Kimberly's got, she's going to write something now. But whenever you have to leave,
I'm going to leave in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Kimberly. See you next time. The other thing is that it happens all the time. Clients are saying things that they don't actually believe, or they're not actually really feeling, or doesn't represent something true for them, for a variety of reasons. Either because they think it's what you need to hear, or it's stories they've told so many times, or when they're angry, they are not noticing their hurt underneath it, or whatever it is, yeah? So the simplest way to go about dealing with that is to find a way in rapport to kind of go, I'm wondering if there's some hurt underneath that anger. Whatever it is, or I'm wondering if maybe it's not so much about mom, but about dad, because, and then they can say, screw you, no. In which case you're wrong, or they're not ready to hear it, or whatever, no? In NLP, it's nested frames, rapport above all. Because there's no point in going into truth-telling or information gathering or change work if there is not an environment of safety and respect in the interaction. So you're wanting to try and maintain that, even if sometimes that means there are things that, like I said with that one client, the stuff was all about mom, but the system, and she wasn't ready to deal with that. So I went to something else that was more available and ready. And if you're sensing something, if you believe something, if you even know something, you can find a way to test it and get a response. And the client could go, oh my God, you're so right. Thank you for saying that. I just wanted somebody to say that. Or they can say, no, screw you. In which case, you go, I'm really sorry, my bad. I had that wrong. Even if you know you didn't, or now you know you did. Yeah. It's all, a kind of a process. And I got a little bit more into NLP land, but that's the one thing for me in family constellations. I really think it could make a great deal of use out of the nested frames, which is rapport first. But sometimes people are a little brutal with their constellations. They push the system past what the client's ready to deal with yet. And that's rarely helpful.
No.
Yeah.
And I've had several people come to me. There's actually one particular practitioner, Marin. I've actually several people saying, you know what, this guy, he really hurt me. Are you going to do that too?
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm starting to get like a list of people who are like.
I've had that in my own field of editing and helping authors.
Right.
People are like, this person demoralized me.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. That's not
Okay, so we're going to let Kimberly go. I just want to say a little thing that I noticed in responding to people's stuff, and then we're going to do a fun little last exercise.
Okay.
It's like turn off your brain exercise.
Bye. Lots of love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly. See you down the road. So there's two things I want to. I didn't want to get into this, but I listened to you all, and it seemed in the end to be useful. So I'm just going to, for those of you who don't know, yes.
You want to change?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in fact, I'm going to show the floor because I'm about to put some stuff on the floor. Okay, so I'm going to map out my family. what the heck? Okay? For a moment, I'm going to pretend well, actually, I don't have to pretend. Never mind. Okay, so there's me, my older brother, my older sister. Either seniority goes on the right or something else goes on the right. And my sister's got 2 kids. This is assuming we're all facing this way, backs this way. And I have an abortion. And that goes there. Abortions count. Abortions are having brought souls into the family system. They register. Again, no judgment about it having happened or what was behind it or anything. It just matters. Miscarriages often count, but not always. And you just have to feel into that. But it was a big deal for me in my 40s when I ran into this modality. And someone said that to me, and I went, oh my God, I am a mother. That was a huge shift for me. That was actually a big deal. Anyway, okay, so I have to do this a slightly different way, I think. Okay, so my father's here and my mother's here, except my father, the man who raised me, and the father of these is probably not my father. Every constellation I've ever done has shown that he is not. So we just put him over here. Could be siblings. I don't feel the presence of them. Could be. Okay? So if we had people representing all these folks, these would kind of be on the floor. These would be, sitting like cross-legged. These would be standing, and we might put these up on chairs, just to get the sense of seniority in the system. Any siblings, my aunts and uncles, I heard some conversation with William, aunts and uncles seem to be relevant. You'd put them off on various sides, depending upon how that went, yeah? Grandparents, etc., etc. Okay? Generally speaking, in marriages, not in marriages so much, but parents, because they don't have to have been married to have babies, right? The father is on the right and the mother's on the left, okay? And if, my apologies, this is so sexist, but if you need to remember, they need their sword hand free. That's the only mnemonic I've ever been able to remember it by. If you're doing couples work, what we'll often find is that the place of the man and the woman, if it's man and woman, has been inverted. A great way to test that is to just have them stand there and say one be on the left and one be on the right. Yeah? And then see what happens. I just did a session with someone who's having real trouble with a husband who historically throughout his life has been kind of emasculated by his mother. And it became really clear that she was carrying the male side of the relationship, whatever that means. And we're not going to even need to know it. But when I put the card for him on the other side, she finally went, oh, finally, that's what I want. And I said, well, play with that, see what happens. What side of the bed do you sleep on? Always an interesting question. Oh. In gay couples, people find their place in similar ways, usually. But usually we're not exploring the couple, we're exploring their parents. Because that's where the trouble lies. Most of us have a father and a mother, biologically. Someday we'll get to the point where that's not the case. And then family constellations will really come into its own.
Leslie, would you put in-laws, like if your brother and sister were married?
You could. It depends.
Just in your case, they aren't? Or
yeah, I don't have any. I mean, I can include my sister's in-laws. They're not hugely related to me, but they're relevant. If my sister was having a constellation, it could be quite relevant to her. And obviously, if we were doing one for my nephew or niece, that's their actual relations. Yeah? Yeah. But yeah, you can include that. Another one I want to just show, this can be super helpful. for couples. I do a lot of couples work. This is really interesting stuff. So let's say right now you're in a relationship. No? But you have a lot of old relationships. And they never really unbonded. Not really. So one way to show this, let's say there's your client's the female in this relationship, and they're 3 former boyfriends or girlfriends. That doesn't really matter very much. There's a set of really nice little ritual things to clean things up, which is this is really nice ritual language that both of them can say to each other. Thank you for the bond. I take responsibility for my part. Please bless me as I take another. And then you can just change the pronouns depending upon the people. So if it's this one, well, let me get to that in a moment. So if it's this one, you can say to the old girlfriend, thank you for the bond. I take responsibility for my part. Please bless me as I choose another. Or I bless you as you choose another. Yeah? I bless you as you choose another. The other thing is you turn to this one and you say, that is my first, that is my second, that is my third, you are my fourth. This precedence thing, this is part of the hierarchy thing, is actually really important. If someone gets married and divorced, understanding that there's a first one is really important. It doesn't mean more love, it doesn't mean more important, it just means first. That's all it means.
I thought you were going to go with you're my first, second, third, and you're my forever. You said fourth. To me,
Fourth.
that was, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I was expecting a little more loyalty to heal those two.
I
was hoping anyhow.
You were my present moment, and
You're my choice now.
See,
My
that
choice.
is,
So, yeah.
yeah, this
Present.
is, yeah,
my
yeah.
present. My
Yeah.
present.
You're my forever to me smacks of anxiety about whether it's true. So I actually wouldn't even say it. Unless, you go to a wedding and you get married and, yeah, you say, I'm committing to this, right? But you're my fourth. And yes, I mean, if this one's saying, first, second, third, what about me?
Mm-hmm.
This one will say, dude, I'm choosing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're over there. Right here. And it doesn't have to be snarky like that, but, and then, but this is really, really useful for this one to say, you're the first, you're the second, you're the third, and I am the fourth. And respect these ones who came first. Because this is a set of lives and relationships, maybe children, that all deserve respect and to be included. And then this one can be like, I'm the fourth. And then, high five, we're going to do it right finally, or whatever it is. Yeah? With total respect for this. And I bless you as you choose another. No? Yes?
what if you're one of the ones, or your client is one of the ones being
Right.
disrespected? Is there anything you can do?
So if you're an ex and they've gotten happily married and you have nobody, that sucks. Yeah. So it will help you to say, I was your second. I bless you as a choose. This is your first. I'm second. You're third. You're fourth. I bless you as you choose another. Please bless me as I choose another. And hopefully those words, you might have to do other work, but sometimes just the ritual words can be really shifting. Yeah. And if not, then, you have to work on something else. But, yeah, if you're, you had the love of your life and you lost him or her, and now you're alone and they are happy with someone else. Yeah, this is something that can help correct that. Okay, now, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. Okay, so I heard some of you doing your interviews. Some of you already know how to do this. This is basically genograms, but with a little bit of a twist. It's so much more helpful to get this information because I heard some of you going, wait, it's your father's what? Sisters, brothers? Well, you can get confused really fast. It's really helpful that you say to your clients, please don't say your grandfather, say your father's mother or your mother's mother, because I know what we're dealing with then, right? So I'm just going to map out mine. I very arbitrarily, I made this up myself. Circles are women, squares are men, triangles are for abortions and miscarriages and things like that, because often we don't know what the sex is, yeah? And if you have somebody who's transgender or intersex or something like that, you can come up with another symbol. I have worked with some transgender people. It's really interesting. So theoretically, if I'm right about this, I am the only child of my mother and father. But my father had a guy who whoops, wrong. My mother, the man who I actually knew as my father, should have done it the other way around, but my sister and my brother. Okay? And then if they have siblings, you can put them in there. Often you want room, yeah? By this point, you're usually not tracking siblings so much. That kind of thing. I put X's on prominent deaths. Obviously, after a certain point, everybody's dead. And people die of kind of normal stuff. This doesn't have much impact on the family. But if, someone died at 2 years old, SIDS, that's probably going to have a big impact on the family. Okay? And then I'll make little notes like that, alcoholic, bipolar, whatever, the information is. Okay? So, and given this stuff, most people know stuff like, who had trouble having a job and stuff like that. We're just not so interested in that. We're interested in who got left out, who got outcast, where was the major perpetration, where was the suffering that was too big to hold, suicides, murders, children who died young, parents who died when the children were young, or left or abandoned the children, mothers who die in childbirth, very big impact on family systems, major traumas, the whole family died in a fire, things of that nature. Also sometimes immigrant trauma, war-related stuff, very big. If you saw combat, that's usually a big deal. If you, we had a Constellation recently where the guy's grandfather ran away from war. That guilt had really shown up because they feel bonded with combatants who died and didn't have children. And so there are essentially peers who don't exist because their father ran away from war. Yeah? So we know we're glad that grandpa didn't go to war, but in the system it feels like guilt. Yeah? So it needs to be improved somehow. Okay. So I just wanted to talk about that because that can be easier to do than trying to take notes as a little picture. Okay, so we're going to do a fun last exercise. And we have one less person in the room. This is in pairs. Beth knows this one. So I'm going to join in with a pair because I can make as much use of this as anybody else in the room. So this is something I've been doing with my clients who are in practice of some sort enough, who have small businesses or whatever it is, or who want to but don't have it yet. It's a little constellation exercise I have adapted from Mark Silver, heartofbusiness.com, great people, they're Sufis, they do business from a Sufi point of view. How can you not love that? And there's a practice in Sufi work of the heart. It's a big focus on the heart. And so he has a practice, a kind of a meditational practice, in which you connect with the heart of your business. Either the one you have or the one you dream of. Or it can be of your vocation, of your work, for those of you who are kind of not so interested in having a business. Okay? So your academic career or whatever it is. There is a way you can just do it internally. We've done the internal ones. You can have a constellation with yourself in the heart of your business. But I'm going to break the rules and it's as if we were doing a different kind of workshop. Although you could do this with a client. We're just going to get into pairs. You're going to go 2 rounds, short rounds, 5 minutes, doesn't need to be long, in which you are yourself, you're representing yourself. By now you're noticing representing yourself is not the same as being yourself, is it?
Right.
You're actually getting information about yourself with respect to stuff in a way you wouldn't if you were just out having a burger, right? And the other one will be the heart of your business. You just will tap them on the shoulder and say, you're the heart of my business. And then interact. See what the heart of your business has to say, what they're experiencing. Ask them curious questions. What do you need? If there's anything obvious, like I'm really, really afraid, well, what are you afraid of? Whatever it is. What's the interaction like? What's their experience of you? What's your experience of it? Sometimes in the representation, the heart of your business will show up and you'll get all scared. Does one feel bigger than the other? This is mostly just information gathering. And I recommend this always to people who are in business because this is a relationship that needs tending. And this is a nice little tool for being in conscious relationship with the heart of your business and paying attention to it in the same way to your lover or your children or other important figures in your life. Yeah? Okay. So find a different pair, someone you have not worked with today. If there's someone who's interested in feeling what it would like to do this online, this is a really simple one to do with someone online. And just pair on up.
Do you want us to stand?
Yes, do stand. Find little places to stand.
Exactly.
So this is something you can do anytime. You can either just sort of do it internally. You can put a card and go back and forth. It is nice to have another person to do this with. This is an especially nice little exercise to have another body. Anybody can do it. I heard some of you telling each other a little about businesses, which is fine, but it's not only is it not necessarily necessary, it's almost helpful to not have any information and just step into the heart of someone's business utterly blind. Yeah?
We did that. It was really fun.
With no sense of whether it's a beginner business or a mature business or a business that's falling apart or a business that's really robust or it's got 100 employees or you're the only one or whatever it is. Yeah. Anything about that anyone wants to share about that specific experience? Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Yeah,
So
of course.
at first I was totally confused with the client.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Once I got over
Yeah. My apologies.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Then I started to get it, but I wasn't do you recommend asking questions or how do you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you feel sad? Or what part of my business, what do my clients need? I don't know, what were we asking each other?
Those are all
just city or country, Italy or here.
Yeah.
I was just, because I was already thrown off about the client thing.
Yeah. So you can ask anything you want. Again, be careful of the soothsaying part of this. The heart of your business is going to be giving you a representational experience. They're not going to be able to tell you Italy or France. Probably, yeah. But, we were having, so the first thing she said was, well, actually, let's do it the other way around. I was like, she said, I'll wait for you. And I'm like, no, I'm in the role. I'm totally in the role, 100%. I want to show you, Will. I'm just doing this. Now, distracted. Now, pretty things. Happy, really happy, feeling good. I'm not, and then it went from there. She had an inquiry. I inquired back. It just became kind of a back and forth, and then things shifted and moved a little bit. Particularly, the first move that really happened was she said, it doesn't upset me that you're distracted. And she didn't expect this response. I went, you saying that, I actually feel a little more grounded. Yeah? And who knows what's going to happen, right? I could have said, well, screw you, I'll be really distracted now. Who knows what that would have done. But
So I have a question.
that kind of thing, what you're curious about, as in all these things, is not so much soothsaying or gritty details, is what's the structure here? What's actually going on here in this interaction? Am I bigger than you? Am I smaller than you? Are you frightened of me? Are you, what's the, that's what we're looking for, yeah? And you can do it anytime you want, Give your beloved, your girlfriend, your whatever, a little bit of instruction, and then have them step into it. Yeah? Again, or do it on your own. What's really interesting is that when I had it done for me, exact same information as the last time I did this, which, I didn't even tell her anything about my business or about that past thing, but I'm going, darn it.
I actually have a question how you got to knowing that you needed.
Because the other rep, because I had a guess, because the other one said, literally a month ago, said, you're trying to get something from me I can't give.
That's how you need to do that. It was based on information that the heart of business gave to you
in a previous constellation.
Not because of your constellation experience.
No. Yeah. I could have figured that out maybe, but I didn't have to. She literally said it that time. And then what I did was so she was representing the heart of my business, and I just put in, that's what I should be getting this other thing from. And instantly the heart of my business went, oh, thank God, she's not trying to get that from me anymore. And we have a sense that there's love or something, like I'm trying to get love from my business when I should be trying to get love from something else, which is what we do with our businesses. We make them try and fill those spaces in our lives, and that's not very useful or workable. Yeah? Beth and I kind of had this interaction in
a previous part of business, I realized I was trying to get my sense of value and worth from my business and the partner, and then Leslie's like, that's not your business's job, and so we put another thing and source. For me, I call it source.
Yeah.
And to know that I'm valuable just because.
Yeah.
So then I can take that responsibility off my business and. And then we can get down to the business of having a business.
Now I can just put food on the table.
Yeah.
Not give you your sense of worth in the world.
It's been a huge shift. I think I'm still developing that other relationship, and this is new now. This is sort of a new thing.
It seems a little tricky to me because I have a sense of wanting to contribute.
Right.
From an NVC, a communication perspective, we all have a need to contribute. And so part of how I feel that need to contribute is through my business.
Well,
that's fine.
Service.
Yeah, that's fine.
Kind of looking at the business. If the business is doing bad, oh my God, I'm a horrible person.
Oh, then tying all that.
Yeah, if I only got 8 clients in my workshop rather than 10, there's something not as worthwhile about me. Yeah. Yeah. And we all do that. I just want to, and that's not the lecture for the last. I just want to give William a little bit of sense of the group. So yeah, obviously we get an experience of meaning, of contributing, of competence, of creativity. These are all perfectly fine things to get from our experience of business, but our core worth, or our sense of being lovable in the world, those are just inside or not, right? So we got 3 minutes left. Other questions, thoughts, contributions?
I have a question. So now that we've worked today with this frame, the checklist, and getting a sense of the orders of love, when we're doing the heart of business, are you suggesting? I was wondering, should I be looking for what's in balance or what's out of balance or what's in order or what's not in order?
Yeah.
I
I mean,
Love that.
in every single constellation, it's an examination of system, and these orders apply. Or they're out of order. So in this case, it was actually, this actually encompasses also role. So I was giving the business, the heart of my business, a role that didn't properly belong to it. And it just told me, basically. It's somewhat in other words, but it was kind of saying, you're asking for something, you said it. You're asking something from me that, something like that. I don't remember the phrase. Yeah? Or you can, the business can say, you know, there's something missing. Or, I don't feel you're paying attention to me. Or whatever it is. Yeah? Us and our businesses are a system. And if something isn't working, something here is out of order. Yeah. Now, I got you all confused, but not completely unusefully confused. For those of you who are in business, another really useful little dyad is you and clients.
That's what I was expecting,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how she would feel as a client about me, my energy and.
Yeah. So that's another really useful dyad. And that's the way you can find out, oh my God, you're trying to get something from me you shouldn't be trying to get from me, or you scare me,
She's like,
or
I'm tipsy. It's too much. Like,
well, actually, sorry is fine, and I see
not
that.
really,
Yeah.
not really, sorry, but I was just like, what?
I include this. Yeah.
What was interesting?
Or even if something's tippy, you can say, what could be grounding here?
She
Yeah.
asked
Yeah.
what it was,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I said, I think I need you to touch me, and then when she did, I stopped.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, no, I
And then you, on your own, ask yourself the question, what would it mean to touch my business? Because none of us in the room know what that is. That's a metaphor. Because, you know, a business isn't something you can really touch real well in the same way you touched her hands, right? But you probably know the answer to that in some sense or another. Yeah. And the nice thing that I've noticed is that the more you do this heart of business interaction, for those of you who are in business, the business is like, I'm so glad you're saying hello to me again. Rather than just doing the business. Saying, how do you do the business? I see you. Yeah. Other questions about anything over the day?
Can we have a follow-up somehow?
Yeah, more.
There feels like I want to practice this, I want to report in
Yeah.
and ask questions and like, I forgot, or what do I do about this, or how do I, you know, like I feel like I want some more support around this.
Yeah. So let me turn this just so that.
Notice demand.
Yeah. So I was kind of feeling that myself a little bit. So I'm glad you said that. I'm going to follow this up with an email to everybody, with the recording, oops, I'm not really in the picture, with some of these invitations for upcoming events. I will pose the question. I will do a little thinking about it. If people, here's two options that show up immediately. One is just do a part B. Yeah, more tools with more practice than maybe tools. The other thing is to do an occasional lab. Now, to make it work, there has to be enough participation. There has to be critical mass.
Yeah.
So it would all doing it would be based upon the amount of response that comes from that. And of course, you know, you guys can play with each other as well.
Yeah.
It is useful, I find, with constellations. If you're not deeply familiar with the frame, I'm sure Kathy knows this, people can make really interesting mistakes that are very well-meaning, but actually don't help the system. A really common one is telling the representative for the client to forgive their parents, which is something that we do commonly. It's a standard we have, but in the constellation frame, it's often a not very useful move. Or for the parents to do a real mea culpa. I'm so sorry. I should have. It makes them smaller and it doesn't help the system. There can be some well-meaning moves out of inexperience that actually are not so helpful. So having some guidance around it can sometimes be super helpful. So any immediate response to all that, or?
Like let's say I have an impulse, because I did try to do a historical reparation, not with
Yeah.
How would you channel that kind of an impulse? Like in what cases would you go with it, in what cases would you channel it into something else?
That is so situation specific, I almost can't answer it.
So you're saying, I hear you say that this is a mistake that people commonly make, so I'd like to avoid making that mistake. So I'd just like a little bit more information about, like, how do we know when it...
If we're making the parents smaller or weaker in the system, it is not helping the system.
Okay.
Yeah? We want to strengthen the parent. So that's what you kind of want to be watching out for in some way. You want to maintain this order of love.
Sorry, I have to go.
Okay, and part of the problem, of course, is that people in places of seniority become abusers, right? So that's the thing we have to unentangle, right? So being big isn't equated with power over, yeah? But to be the safe parent, the safe, strong leader or parent, yeah? So, yes?
So it's
One more, and then I'm going to let you all go and you can ask me questions.
the seniority, you want to keep the parent higher on the hierarchy. Not to say they're right or wrong. So the person's not pulling back.
Right. Yeah. In some, yes. And what a child needs is what? The parents to be parents. Even us grown-ups need to feel that strength in the system.
Even disassociating with parents, or being in parents being in a healthy place but still being parents. And not
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We're not
And
switching power over.
the dilemma here is right at the end of the day, we're getting into one of those sets of nuances. Okay. So I'm going to ask us to not try and solve that, because there's a whole lot of calibrating and understanding and feeling into it, an experience that I'm not going to be able. You can ask me the best questions in the universe, I'm still not going to be able to answer it very well, because so much of it. One of the things that is so difficult for Bert Hellinger is he'll come across and say, this is what you do when you blah, blah, blah. And then 2 years later, very similar situation, will say the exact opposite thing. And people will say, but you said they're that. And he says, that's right. Because it's all really contextual.
Yeah.
So.
In answer to your question, yes, part B, and yes, lab. Although I don't know what that means at all. And I was wondering if we could all stay in touch as your little laboratory.
Shall my response not be BCC'd, blind copied, so you can see each other's email addresses?
Oh, sure.
It's standard when you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just standard when you send out a group email to a group of people who don't know each other, is you do a blind copy so that people are not spamming each other and stuff. But if I have your permission, I won't make it blind, and then you can use, contact each other. Okay. Okay. Send you off in the evening. If you have questions, come talk to me. And I really hope this was useful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, William. Everyone say goodbye to William.
Bye, William.
Thank you all.